Welcome to Rails Around York. I'm Larry Keller.
On this program, we will visit Steamtown and see their special weekend during Labor Day 1998. The operations included E8 diesels and double-headed steam locomotives.
We will then see the Lower Anthracite Model Railroad Club in Shamokin and take a side trip to visit a 50-year-old memory.
Then we will follow an excursion on the Shamokin Valley Railroad from Shamokin to Sunbury.
Steamtown National Park is located in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Labor Day weekend of 1998 was a special celebration. Two E8 diesels painted in the Lackawanna Railroad colors were there and made an early morning run to Moscow and return.
Down here. Oh, there's diesels.
The Baldwin switcher was used to move cars around the yards. Many of the steam-era freight cars are being restored, as well as the passenger cars and locomotives.
As the Baldwin switches for the visitors, we see the two steam locomotives being prepared for the day's work of hauling the excursions to Moscow. We will see the steam train at various places on its run to Moscow and return. At Moscow, we will see the photo run-by.
The run-by is performed so the riders on the train can get action pictures from the ground of the train passing by at speed.
Here's the sower, Michael Guido of Meta, Georgia, with a seed for the garden of your heart.
In the early 1900s, Mr. Schaefer, National League player, reached second base on a double. But then he proceeded to steal first. Nobody's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes, but let your mistake be your educator, not your embalmer. Learn from it and then leave it. Don't remember what you ought to forget, and don't forget what you ought to remember. Always keep in mind that there's pardon for the past and power for the present. St. Paul said, forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead, I strain to reach the goal.
A seed from the sower has originated from the studios of the Guido Evangelistic Association, Meta, Georgia.
Good evening. This is Tony Wasilewski from the Lower Anthracite Model Railroad Club, house here in Shamokin, Pennsylvania, in the American Legion building. Welcome. You are about to view one of the largest model railroads in central Pennsylvania. Over 4,000 square feet, HO gauge, depicting Northumberland County as it was in the early 50s. We are modeling the Pennsylvania Railroad, the Reading, and the Lehigh Valley. You'll see a lot of landmarks and historical buildings that have long been torn down, no longer here. And we're open every Thursday evening to the general public from 6:30 to 9. And everyone is welcome to come up and view. Not all the trains will be running at that time because a lot of these evenings will be work nights. We've been here 13 years. We have approximately 30 members of the club. Active members, about 10. We work Tuesdays and Thursdays up here, and as I said, for 13 years, we have been host to over 35,000 people. February of 1999, we are being featured on Model Railroader magazine. 240,000 paid subscribers and about that many on a newsstand. We're very proud of this feat. Model Railroader does only exquisite model railroads. To my left is the long gone now Glenburn Colliery, anthracite coal mine coming into Shamokin off of Route 61. It is all hand-built, scratch-built as it was. It is a major landmark. It was a major landmark in Shamokin. Pennsylvania Railroad hauled a lot of coal out of Shamokin. Right around the corner from the Glenburn was weigh scales. That was the area where the Pennsylvania Railroad weighed all the coal cars that came out of the Glenburn. It was sort of a holding pattern for the Pennsy, and then they were then transferred to the Northumberland yards on the other side of Sunbury.
Recently, I discovered a memory of the past. In 1948, the Reading Company placed 2 new trains in operation to upstate Pennsylvania, the King Coal to Shamokin and the Schuylkill to Pottsville. 50 years ago was the first time I ate in a dining car in the King Coal. Now, 50 years later, I find I can still eat in this car and see the mountains and valleys of upstate Pennsylvania. True, the car today has no wheels, but in one's mind you can still imagine a G3 Pacific pulling the train with the click-clack of the rail joints as the train heads for Philadelphia. Maybe you need a good imagination, but the inside of this old car still retains most of the charm and reminders from 50 years ago. The doors, the galley, the dining area, even the original glass partitions, and the overhead racks with the signs. How did this car survive in this condition for so long? I don't know how or why, but isn't it nice that it did?
On October 24, 1998, an excursion was operated on the Shamokin Valley. The Shamokin Valley is a part of the North Shore Railroad in Northumberland.
This is the Walnut Street crossing in Shamokin. There is a branch to Bear Valley known as the North Line. Beyond here, the train uses the first connecting track to go from the Reading Company to the Pennsylvania tracks. The Pensie's Yard was located in this area. Today, it's a supermarket.
We see the train on Pennsylvania rails at Brewery Curve. The Class NA caboose was restored by Jeff Punches. It adds a bit of the flavor of the Pennsylvania Railroad to this excursion. The train is seen along Route 61 just before Paxinus. Beyond here, the train will use another connector track to get back to the Reading Company's track. There are two industrial parks along the Pensie's tracks. We will follow the train through Snydertown and into Sunbury as it uses the former Reading right-of-way.
Sunbury is where the Shamokin Valley connects with Conrail, soon to be the Norfolk Southern. The engine runs around the train for its return to Shamokin.
As the train prepares to leave Sunbury, a Conrail train is seen heading for Harrisburg. We'll watch the train leave Sunbury and see it once more on the return trip before calling it a day. It was a beautiful fall day for this excursion on the Shamokin Valley between Shamokin and Sunbury on some rare mileage track. like to invite you to Bible Baptist Church on the Susquehanna Trail. It's a place to belong, a place to grow, a place to enjoy, a place to be loved. At Bible Baptist Church, there are relevant, helpful Bible messages. Learn what the Bible means and why it is so important for your life. There's refreshing music, uplifting, Christ-honoring songs that will encourage your heart. Family, friends, and fun. A church family of friends that really loves each other. Loving child care and classes. A fun, clean, and memorable experience for your children. The following is a personal word from Pastor Trout.
Bible Baptist Church is a place where you can experience God's love in a personal way. If you'll make time to visit one of our services, we'll do our best to provide a wonderful and refreshing church experience for you and your dear family.
No one deliberately drives an automobile in front of an 18-wheeler. Obviously, the truck will win. Likewise, everyone should know that it's even more foolish to drive a car in front of a train. A truck outweighs a car by a ratio of 20 to 1, but a train outweighs a car by 4,000 to 1. If everyone knows how foolish it is to drive in front of a train, why are there approximately 6,000 train-car collisions at highway rail crossings in the United States each year? Obviously, these people did not intentionally drive in front of a train. Why do these accidents occur? Let's explore some of the reasons why these unintentional yet catastrophic railroad crossing collisions happen. Too many highway rail grade crossing collisions are caused by inattention or impatience on the part of the driver. Driving has become a secondary activity. Drivers engage in conversation with other occupants. They listen to radios and tapes. They allow these activities to keep them from paying attention to driving their vehicles safely. They even drink before driving and drive while drinking. Motorists, in other words, do not pay attention to performing tasks that are necessary for safe driving. Signs to instruct motorists have been standardized throughout the United States. Drivers everywhere will see the same pattern of signs. They're divided into 3 categories: guide signs, warning signs, and regulatory signs. These tell the motorist about conditions of the road ahead, warn them of precautions to take, and instruct them of their duties. Regulatory signs instruct a motorist about a law or ordinance which must be obeyed. Violation of a regulatory sign is a violation of law. A citation can be issued and a fine imposed. Certain signs warn and instruct motorists with respect to highway rail grade crossings. These are the advance warning sign, a railroad crossing symbol painted on paved road surfaces, a crossbuck, flashing lights and bells, and flashing lights, gates, and bells. Each of these signs or signals carries a particular instruction to motorists. The advance warning sign and the railroad crossing symbol painted on the pavement are both warning signs. This round yellow disc with a black X and the letters RR, along with the same symbol on the street, are placed sufficiently far in advance of the tracks so that motorists can take the time to look for a train. If these signs are ignored, motorists may find themselves in a position where they cannot prevent a collision when they find out that a train is approaching. Motorists, upon noticing an advance warning sign and railroad markings on the pavement, should begin to slow down and to look for a train. Crossings located in urban areas with many buildings, in rural areas with growing crops, or with many trees and bushes may make it difficult to see if a train is approaching. If visibility is restricted and an approaching train cannot be seen, motorists not only should, but are required to slow down so that when they arrive at the crossing and determine that a train is coming, they can yield. The consequences of traveling blindly at the roadway posted speed limit toward a crossing where visibility is limited are twofold. It is a violation of the law, and a serious collision can result. The sign that a motorist sees is the crossbuck. This is a regulatory sign. Motorists are required to yield the right-of-way to a train. The sign has the same force as the inverted triangle, the yield sign. It means that motorists must slow as necessary in approaching a crossing so that when it is determined that a train is approaching, they can stop safely. The duty to yield the right-of-way to trains governs many motorists' activities. They should never race a train and try to beat it to the crossing. They should expect a train at any time. They should watch out for second trains that might be approaching on the other track after the first train passes on the first track. Why is it necessary for a motorist to yield to a train? The answer is simple. A train rolling on steel wheels on a steel rail cannot stop as quickly as an automobile can. Can you tell which of these trains is in emergency braking? In fact, an average 100-car train that weighs 6,000 tons, traveling at 60 miles per hour, may take up to 1.5 miles to stop. Let's look at another train making an emergency stop. This train has been in emergency braking from the time the engine crossed the road. Since a train cannot stop in time to avoid a collision, the responsibility to avoid a collision lies with the motorist. When traffic at a crossing is heavy, or many trains run on the track, the possibility of a collision is increased. Active warning signals are installed at high traffic crossings to warn of approaching trains and to inform motorists that they are required to stop. Because it takes only one inattentive motorist to produce a devastating collision. It's the law that motorists must stop when a railroad flashing signal is operating. If the train is not in hazardous proximity to the crossing and not blowing the whistle, then the motorist may proceed across if there is no doubt that it can be done safely. If a driver determines that the train is far enough away and is stopped so as not to produce an immediate hazard, care should be exercised in crossing the tracks. Manual transmissions, particularly on buses and trucks, should be left in first gear until clear of the tracks on the other side. No last-second attempt should be made to restart a stalled vehicle on the tracks. Flashing light signals are usually accompanied by a bell on one signal to warn pedestrians of an oncoming train. These bells are not loud enough to warn motorists in approaching cars, particularly if motorists drive with their windows up and radios on. Motorists should never rely upon a bell for announcing an approaching train. Vehicular or train traffic is especially heavy. Gates are lowered across traffic lanes. These gates, painted with diagonal stripes and equipped with lights, are a physical barrier. Motorists must remain stopped as long as the gates are down. It is against the law to drive around the gates, even though doing so might appear to be safe. Gates are designed so as to block the traffic lane leading to the tracks. They do not extend across the opposite traffic lane. This is necessary for vehicles to continue to move off the tracks should a gate go down behind them. In most locations, trains are required by law to sound a whistle at a point approximately 1/4 of a mile from a highway railroad grade crossing. This is a loud signal, but it is not loud enough for motorists to hear when they are in a sound-insulated automobile with the radio playing, conversation going on, and perhaps heater or air conditioner operating. At the advance warning sign, therefore, motorists should take the precaution to roll a window down, even partially, turn the radio down, terminate conversation, and consciously listen for a train whistle. A train whistle is like a signal from any emergency vehicle. Motorists are required to yield the right-of-way. Grade crossing collision can have catastrophic consequences for railroads as well as motorists. A train engineer never erases the memory of a car or truck hit by his train, the sight of terrified faces, and those injured or killed. And a very real danger exists for the train crew. The specter of a fire is always present, and a derailment can be fatal to the train crew. The magnitude of the damage when a train derails is illustrated in this scene depicting an actual train-truck collision. The driver was killed. Several of the train crew suffered serious injuries, and damage was over $1.5 million. Motorists' inattention can not only cost their lives, it can cost train crew lives also. Avoiding a collision at a highway rail grade crossing is a matter of common sense. Inattention exacts a horrible price. Operation Lifesaver urgently hopes that all motorists and pedestrians will look, listen, and live.
We appreciate your phone calls to WRCT. Thank you for watching Rails Around York.